to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us today. Get ready to be inspired and motivated to live a high-impact life. Now, here's Rick.
Welcome to the Point of Impact podcast. I'm Rick McDaniel. It's great to have you joining us again today. We are going to finish up this focus we've had on the seasons of life by talking about the season of transition. This is really an important one. It's literally a season. It's not just, you move from one season to the other, a little bit of transition. It's one of the things I've learned in life. I really think it'll help you to understand that transitions are an entire season in and of themselves. I know we followed kind of the four natural seasons and shown the spiritual insight, however you want to refer to it, of each season in terms of what the impact is on your life. But there is no season of transition, naturally, I understand, but it is really important to understand this. Many people have gotten slipped up on this one. So I'm going to really drill down to try to help you to understand it better so you can navigate this season in the most effective and productive way. And it can be, by the way, it can be quite productive. And I'll talk about that. So it's going to be good. And if you're listening for the first time, you tuned in to a good episode. If you're listening, for the 200th time, then thanks for listening. And I think what brings you back each week, you're going to find this one is one that you're really going to enjoy. Before we jump into it, just want to say I am going to take an international trip, so I'll be out of the country and we won't have a new episode next week. I will get back and even though it's not my normal schedule, I'll see if I can rush one in because I work ahead that allows me to do this sort of thing from time to time. So we'll see if we can get another episode done in time so you only miss 1 week, not 2. And that will be when we'll start to do some individual episodes on various kinds of topics that I think you'll find interesting. And we'll continue that then for the rest of season 6 until we wrap up. So we'll hit a lot of interesting stuff over that month and a half. And I think it'll really be beneficial to you and you'll enjoy it a lot. So that just heads up, next week, no episode, and then we'll get back after it until we finish up with season 6. And also just want you to know that we are working on an update, a redo of the rickmcdaniel.com website. And I can't wait to share that with you. I refer to it often here because it is the single best place to go to learn more about me and all the things that I do and ways that I can help you with books, with speaking, writing, coaching, consulting, all that sort of stuff. But we'll have a new site coming out, and then I'm going to be really excited to share that with you so you can see it. So it's in process, it's happening, but it isn't yet done. So hopefully the next time you hear from me, we're ready to say it is done. So let's just jump in today then with this last episode of the seasons of life, the season of transition. I'll never forget the first time that our oldest child, our son, left home for school. And it was an experience that was different than anything our family had ever gone through before. And it was the kind of experience that changed us. It changed our family. Now, I want to say it was natural and it was appropriate. There's nothing wrong with it. Children should grow up in a home and then they should go out. In fact, I would say to you parents, that's a sign of success, that you prepared your children to be adult, independent adults. That they can go out and live their life, even if going to the school is not exactly the same as, completely leaving home and having their own place and own job and everything, but which of course also needs to happen. So it's definitely good, but that doesn't mean it wasn't challenging. It challenged me as a dad. It challenged my wife as a mom. It challenged our son, who was the one who was leaving, and it challenged his brother. It brought a lot of tears and really a restructuring when you lose a member of your family that way. And again, we didn't lose him for good, thank God, but we lost him. He was gone. And I'll never forget sitting around that kitchen table, and now, there's 4 chairs because there's 4 people in the family, and now one of those chairs is empty. And it's different. Transitions are normal. They're healthy. They can be very beneficial. But the one thing they will absolutely not be is uneventful. They will bring changes into your life. And that's what I want to talk about today. We spent a number of weeks now in this Seasons of Life talking about the different seasons, likening them to the natural seasons. And now we come to this season of transition. Now, sometimes this season is brief, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's longer. And I would say to you that the season of transition is one that, though it visits all of us, it doesn't visit all of us in the same way or in the same order. There are times in our lives when we will move between seasons quickly. And there are times in our lives where there will be a rather lengthy season of transition. And what I want you to understand, this is really important now, is there's a difference between transition and change. Don't just go, oh, it's just a change. No, of course it is a change, but change is primarily, though not exclusively, external. Transition is primarily, though not exclusively, internal. And so because it's internal, that's why it generates so much more emotion than, say, other changes that can happen in our lives. So it's really important to get this. Otherwise, right from the start, oh, it's just another change in my life. No, transitions are different. They are change, but they're more personal, they're more internal. I would say transition is the process that you go through to come to terms with the new season that God brings you into in your life. It's normal, it's appropriate, it's natural, it's healthy, but it's also challenging. It can be a time when we're not clear about exactly what's going on. It can be a time when we wonder, what is God up to in my life? And first thing I want to say to you is God is up to stuff in that season. God is still at work. And it's not like he puts a pause on transition and, well, I'll get back to you and get into the next season. No, he's at work. He's at work in a different way than the other seasons we've talked about. He's at work in a way that brings us from one season to another. Sometimes things don't appear to be all that different on the outside, but they're different on the inside. And even when there's change outwardly, the impact is much greater inwardly. So how do we navigate this season of transition? I mean, how do you benefit from it? How can you make sure that in the season of transition, you maximize all of the potential benefits that can come into your life? How do you do that? Here's the first thing. You have to identify the end of a season. You can't get to transition and understand transition correctly unless you can put your finger out and say, this season has now ended. Life is about seasons. And endings are a normal part of life. I've talked about the fear of endings before. Maybe you've heard me speak on that, talk about it, that people can struggle with endings. They're like fearful about them. They're not comfortable with them. And this is something you have to overcome in order to understand the benefits that can come out of a transition season. You have to identify the end of a season, and you need to be okay with that. Not upset, not bothered, not fearful, not hearing the word endings and immediately thinking negative. But understand that in life, everything is cyclical. There's a beginning and there's an ending. That's life. And for the transition season, the starting point is the ending. The starting point of a transition is the ending of another season. So when there's a new job, a child is born, there's a new home, new place. All these are beginning points of transition that came about because the old job ended. You moved to a different house or a different state or a different town. Your life as a married couple without children has now ended, and now you have children. It's over. It's done. And admittedly, there can be challenges, because what's difficult about endings is that we can feel like we've given something up or something's been taken from us. And in some way, things have changed. But that's okay. They needed to. And we need to be comfortable with the season ending. Now, some of you might be like, I can't wait for the season of pressure to end. I listened to that episode and man, I'm like, I'm in it. I'll be happy when it ends. Now, others might say, well, I'm in the season of harvest and I don't want it to ever end. I want the season of harvest to last forever. This is so great. So we can approach the ending of different seasons differently depending on what season we might be in. But the reality is all seasons do end. They do. So what happens now? What's next? What are you going to do next? Plenty of people struggle in the transition season because they don't have a sense of who they are, because maybe so much of what they are is wrapped up in what they do or did. They stop doing that. They struggle with identity. The biggest problem in transition is caused by not accepting the ending. You have to be willing to say this, okay? Ready? This has run its course. This season in my life is over. This season of my life is done, and now I'm transitioning into something new. If you don't accept that, if you won't accept that, if you refuse to accept that, then the season of transition will not be a good season for you. It can be a good season, but you can unnecessarily bring extra problems and difficulties into your life that you don't need, simply because of your resistance to accepting the ending of a season and welcoming the season of transition. If you're able to say, I'm okay and comfortable with the season of transition, I'm curious to see what God has next for me and what it is that God is doing in my life while I'm in this transition. Much better. We don't transition from one season to another. We go from a season to a transition season. It's a season in and of itself. It's a separate season. Now, if you're someone that struggles with waiting and patience, this can be challenging. You're just like, let's speed it up. Let's get on to the next thing. And by the way, as I said, sometimes it's fairly brief season, but sometimes it's not. If you try to speed up a transition season, that might not be a short season. You can end up messing up the next season. If you just try to, either it won't be a short season or you'll make it short, but then that'll mess up the season you're going into. Your refusal to accept the season of transition as legitimate and a separate season in your life can adversely affect the next season you go into. I know this, sounds kind of strong, and it is. It's a warning. Like, don't rush through the transition season. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes insight, it takes understanding. And if you try to rush through it, you're going to short circuit the work that God's trying to do in your life. William Bridges calls the transition season the neutral zone. The neutral zone. It's an interesting way to talk about it. When you're in neutral, you're not in drive, you're not in forward, you're not in reverse, you're not even in park, you're in neutral. You go get your car washed, you go to the car wash, what do they tell you to do? Put the car in neutral. Don't put the car in park, don't put the car in drive or reverse. Most of us drive automatic transmissions, but they used to be manual. I still have a car with a manual transmission. Neutral, very important with the stick, with the standard transmission versus the automatic transmission. Not as important with the automatic because neutral, you have the clutch, you got to put your car into neutral. We kind of lost a little bit of the importance of neutral. But occasionally, like going to a car wash, we're reminded, okay, neutral. Now, here's the thing about being in the neutral zone, about being in the transition is confusion can arise if we don't take the time necessary to understand what it is that God is doing in our life in a season of transition. We can say, I was here, now we need to get to there. But God might be saying, we're not going to the next season for a while. This is the season you're in. And this season is the season of transition. There are things you need to learn. There are things you need to experience. And this is a season which you're going to learn more about yourself. You're going to experience things that you haven't experienced before. And that's healthy and that's good. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, to maximize the next season of your life, you need to take the time in the season of transition. If we go back to when our oldest son left home and it's just really unhappy person for a while. It's hard to reorient the family in such a gigantic shift. I could see how unhappy my youngest son, his brother, was. I could see the struggle that my wife was going through. And when you're in that kind of struggle, unhappiness, you see other people you care about struggling, your first instinct is, I got to fix this. What do I need to do? But that might not be the right move. We don't welcome this sort of stuff into our lives, but sometimes it's a necessary part of life. And when things end, sometimes they end more happily and sometimes they don't. But when they end, that can be difficult to accept. But I'm encouraging you today, take the time to work through the accepting, to understand the season of transition and what it's all about. It's a season of accepting the change that's taken place in your life. This happens when children leave the home, for instance. It happens if you get divorced. And many times what people want to do is just, move past it. For instance, let's just use a divorce as an example, because this has just come up many times in my career. And I'm just going to tell you, people start wanting to date someone else in the midst of this transition season. And I'm just telling you, I don't think that's a wise thing to do. You need to stay in the transition season, not jump back into it. And the statistics bear it out. The divorce rate for second marriages is higher than first marriages, and the divorce rate for third marriages is higher than first or second marriages. Why does that happen? People didn't learn the lessons. Yeah, people didn't take time in the season of transition and they rushed into something. But listen, could a change in a job, you say, I got to get another job. But, change from getting an education to getting a job, change from being a married couple to having children. All of these are changes, and there's a transition season in there. When I was finishing up my first graduate school degree, I was also in process. My wife was pregnant. I was going to have a child, become a dad, which is crazy, but we did that. And so I was actually taking a class called family counseling, and I decided I would write my research paper on the impact of a couple when they have a child. And I'm going to tell you what, it was fascinating. There are opportunities that come in transitions, real opportunities. Instead of racing through it, trying to get past it, try to understand it. God gives us a period of time, a transitionary period, to understand what it means to prepare. Now, you say 9 months. Yeah, not so great for a woman, easier for a man, but it's an important time to get ready because of the 5 impacts on a husband and a wife. Only one of the 5, loss of sleep, is the same. And it was number 1 for a man. It was number 4 for a woman. Other than that, the other 4 impacts for a man and woman were completely different. Just let that sink in. You really have to prepare for something like this. Bringing a child into the marriage. So, just an example of the opportunity that transition season gives you to prepare yourself for what's next. And that is vitally, vitally, vitally important. Those opportunities, the opportunity in transition, because transition can bring about growth in your life. Yeah, it can. We change to face new situations, and change brings about growth. So instead of transition being something negative, it could be that we plateaued and we need a transition season to start new growth. Transition, now listen, is a season when creativity and innovation can spring forth. So it can actually be a season of renewal. Transition can be the time when things get solved that haven't been solved because we're looking at the same problem differently. Same person, same problem, but season of transition shakes us up in a way that we might see things differently. What a gift that is. So a spark of creativity or an innovative approach springs forth, and we're able to then approach a new season in a better way, all because of the season of transition. Wouldn't happen without it. Once you take time to understand this season of transition, that you are able to identify it, to take time to experience it, to look at the opportunities it brings, then you're ready to move confidently into a new season. The season of transition serves the purpose of bridging seasons and allowing us to move confidently into a new season. After the ending comes the transition, and then the new season begins, and that's exactly how it should work. Ending, transition, new season. That's the order. Don't mess with it. Don't mess with God's order. Don't try to skip the ending or skip the transition and just get right into the new season. Go through the transition. Having had the ending, going through the transition, you can now move confidently into that new season. New job, move confidently. New baby, move confidently. New location, move confidently. The reason you can move confidently is because you know you properly handled the season of transition. The confidence comes in knowing you're ready. You are ready for the new season. Confidence is such a marvelous thing. I was talking with someone recently just about this, the power of confidence. When you have it, life is simply easier. When you don't have it, life is harder. Having confidence in a new season is all about doing the right things in the season of transition. You don't want to enter a new season without confidence. And the only way to have confidence is enter a new season with properly handling the season of transition. Taking the time so you can maximize the new season and get the most benefit and value out of it for your life. Transition. It's an emotional, spiritual, psychological journey that you're in and that you go through. Let me just ask you some questions right now. What are you doing? What are you doing? And ask God, what is He doing in your life? Ask God, am I entering a new season? Or why do I feel so much discomfort or boredom in my current season? Have I stopped growing and being stretched? Is there much more inside me that I'm not able to express in this place, in this role, in this season? Do I feel constrained, stifled? What is the next step I should take? Where are you leading me, God? You see how these questions can prepare you for the transition. Sometimes it happens without you being prepared for it or even wanting it. Sometimes it's the result of decisions outside of your control. Sometimes it's not something you initiated. Maybe, just maybe, you're in the middle of a transition season right now and you really haven't realized it until you just listen to this and you're like, I think I'm in a transition season. And if you are, then you need to apply the things you've heard today so you can get ready for that new season that God is bringing you to. I hope you're able to see God's hand at work in your transition season. I hope you will open yourself up to learning and growing in this season when you're in it. You won't just rush through it. Again, sometimes it can be fairly brief and sometimes it's not. And though you may feel like you're stuck in neutral and you're not going anywhere, I'm going to tell you something, friends. Some really good stuff can happen in you so that you'll be able to launch into that new season different, better, wiser, and more confident about the season you're launching into. So take the time to understand it and to get the most out of this season of transition that you possibly can. Have a great week.
You've been listening to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to you joining us for our next episode.